Good morning and welcome to Everyday Money Matters on Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. It's a lovely, lovely Wednesday. It's September the 15th, and this is your everyday personal finance and literacy show brought to you in partnership with our friends at Naira Metrics. My name is Adu, and of course, today I'm joined by our friends, the Money Team. Talking about the Money Team, I have Lawretter Egba and Olumide Adesina joining me this morning. Good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning, Adi. Yeah, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Good to see you, Loretta and Olumide. Now, just to remind our listeners, you can watch this episode again. Just go to YouTube at Nairametric, and you can watch this episode again and see all that we'll be discussing here, of course, and listen to it again. And if you have questions like those who have been sent in already, send them to us on WhatsApp. The WhatsApp line for the station, 0809-234-5913. That's the WhatsApp number, 0809-234-5913. Use that to get to us. And would love to hear from you. So, Olumide and Loretta, good to have you here. Lots of things have happened in the past week, of course, and many policies the CBN is, shall I say, starting off to help the economy and many other things. So let's just dive straight into it. The first one is the borrowing that the federal government is seeking. The FG is seeking to borrow a fresh $4 billion plus. What effect will this have on our exchange stability if the Senate grants this request and everything goes according to plan?
Okay. First of all, good morning once again, guys. It's going to add liquidity, currency liquidity, definitely. Foreign reserves basically has been moving for some time around 33, 34. So having such a differential into the account, addition, that's going to boost liquidity and give the Apex Bank some ammunition to fight these market speculators we are seeing right now. Therefore, I think in the long run, the functionality behind that is just for government to have increased spending exposure, so they'll be able to follow their policies. So basically, it's just going to be like a leverage. That's in short terms.
Okay, so does it mean that with this now, our currency value would increase or reduce?
God bless you. That's an interesting question. I think what listeners need to understand is that what we're seeing in the black market is a dysfunctional system right now. Right now the dollar has been moderating for the past couple of hours before it picked up this morning, and that was because the U.S. inflation rate had peaked, so it fell compared to July and June. But what we are seeing in this end is that that has not really been positive for the naira, because we're seeing that a lot of people are holding the currency, and the fact that the Apex Bank is preparing stronger ammunition against the players, I think we are seeing saboteurs taking the risk on. But I'll advise people that, see, it doesn't make sense for you to be earning naira and hedging with black market rates, because if you understand the functionalities behind hedging, the black market rate and the present narrative about naira is not an ideal situation. So I think we'll see how it plays out, but I'm on the side of the naira.
Well, in the black market, it's about 550 now.
Yeah, but the true value, but you know what you get in the bank rate, right? And people that have, I still had friends that paid school fees and paid, I think, around 420 something. So look at the price differential you're having. So all we just need to do is that, a lot of people are saying that policymakers might have encouraged it at one point or the other because of arbitrage opportunities. But I think people that have serious concerns with FX needs can go through the banks. The banks are still attending to them as we speak. And the CBN said that they're going to, additionally, the CBN said they were going to add more liquidity to buy some banks. So I think people should should ignore the black market narrative. That's my own advice.
All right, let's move on from that. Thank you, Olumide, for that.
Mr. Adu, I gotta chime in here.
Oh,
I have to chime in here.
Ugodre,
I
all
have to
right, please
chime in here.
go on, please. Go on, please.
Yes. So, $4 billion. Olumide hit it spot on. If you get that kind of money into this country, that is going to be a huge relief for the economy, whether you like it or not, because Nigeria relies on foreign inflow of dollars to keep the exchange rate kind of stable. But we've got to be able to separate, a stable exchange rate from what is happening at the block market at the moment, because they're two different things entirely. Now, let's speak to your first question. If that money comes in,
Okay, Ugodre, I think we lost you for a moment there.
Yeah.
Maybe when he comes back on, we'll just take that question again with him. Okay, so whilst we try to reconnect with him, let's take a look at another question that is coming up on the question sent in so far. This person is asking, what is the benefit of the CBN's International Financial Center to attract investors when there is already the NIPC?
Okay, well, I believe they are pretty similar. The objective of the Nigeria International Financial Center is to act as a gateway for funds and investments to come into the country. The only difference, and of course, the NIPC was also set to encourage, promote, and coordinate investments. While the CBN has not particularly said whether one will stop for the other, I believe, or from what I can see from the two of them, the new one, that's NIFC, is slightly different in that it's going to be leveraging technology to encourage payment. So they're going to have a payment system infrastructure in the process, and they're going to use that as a way to get more people to invest in the Nigerian economy. However, NIPC itself was supposed to encourage, promote, coordinate investments coming in. They have not been very explicit in whether one will stop for the other, but the new one apparently leverages more of technology and could provide maybe a different solution. Yeah.
Okay, so with the MPC meeting kicking off from today, do you think the CBN would raise interest rate? This person is asking.
It's a bit tricky, but I think I'll follow the narrative of many emerging markets. I think rates will remain the same, because I'll tell you three reasons why. First, we're seeing that inflation rate has peaked. Inflation rate is moderate as we speak, so there's no pressure for monetary tightening right now. Then you also need to understand that the Delta variant has also created some form of disruption in the market, despite the fact that we've moved past COVID-19 onslaught in 2020, but we are seeing some disruption. So the Apex Bank will also want to encourage borrowing. So it's very unlikely for the MPC meeting to bring in some upsides in rate changes. Then the last one, which we're talking about currency, we're talking about currency stability. I think now the Apex Bank will not see it wise to tighten the fact that we are already seeing that liquidity in shadow markets are a bit tight. Though they don't really see that as a parameter, but on the greater upside, they look at the fact that that's also part of the ecosystem. So they will not want to create a form of tightening right now. But we've seen that in other markets, surprisingly, the Apex Bank tightened, because the inflation is still on the high side, you understand? So at one point, liquidity would definitely tighten. But my bet today is that it's going to be unlikely the rates will be increased.
Well, I have a slightly different perspective in that I feel, first off, Nigeria has outperformed many of the predictions. So we are basically seeing that it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be in the first place. Of course, by increasing interest rates, while borrowing will be affected, there's also the part of the treasury bill market and all of the fixed income, the fixed income market itself. These are what I think. Let me just go straight to the point. What I think is that if the CBN doesn't hold it constant, it will slightly increase interest rates so that those people who have invested in fixed income security, not particularly because of them, but at least they have a shot at something better. That's what I think. That slightly be increased. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of questions here. Let me take this one first, and then we'll take another one from another of the listeners. It says, how can a salary earner of 65,000 naira and a monthly expenditure of 20,000 naira save for an apartment, to rent an apartment within 6 months? So the person earns 65,000 naira, spends 20,000 naira per month, and wants to save to rent an apartment within 6 months.
Well, these questions are always pretty vague in that there are so many elements involved. If you're trying to have, let's say you have a 45,000 naira savings and you're trying to move into Lekki, I don't know the amount of investment you're going to need to put in place to be able to do that. So first off, the location you're trying to move into is, it's a big factor. But if the person is asking, I'm assuming it's because you want to know if there is some kind of investment you can put your money in that would, sporadically increase within the next 6 months. And the truth is, if you are trying to use it for something as important as your accommodation, then your best bets are not with risky assets. You want to save your money and probably find a way to ward off inflation to a certain degree. But yeah, what I would advise is definitely avoid very risky assets. If you want to dabble into a little bit of risk, then maybe agrotech, a very trusted agrotech company that can yield something. There are people that invest in maize or sorghum, and then after 4 months, you get 20%, and some of them have proven to be really good over the years. There's that. However, I would not advise that a majority of your portfolio is in assets that are risky. Just know how much you have at the end of the period. Save somewhere, probably in, well, to be honest, just save it 6 months. So either low risk, or you mix it a little bit with some risky asset, which is like agrotech, as I said. At the end of the day, it is the location you choose to move into that matters. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think Ugodre is back now. Ugodre, can you hear us now?
Yeah, sorry for that. Internet threw me out completely.
Yeah, the internet threw you out. Welcome back. Okay, so you were trying to talk about the 4 billion naira that the federal government is seeking to borrow.
Yeah, so what I was basically saying, and to the listeners, is please, you got to pay attention to this story, right? Because once you have this $4 billion, I'm sorry, my video is not on, but back to the gist. So once you have this $4 billion in here, then that provides enough liquidity for the forex market, particularly the official one that is basically starved of funds. But here's what I think is going to happen, Adu. A lot of that money is probably going to go towards paying off pent-up demand. So pent-up demand is basically companies and corporations that have been waiting to repatriate their dollars out of the country, right? So you're going to have to meet that demand because the CBN had already promised a lot of these guys forex. So our thinking is that you meet that demand. So once you're able to pay those guys off, then that provides some kind of liquidity on at least temporarily for the FX. So for speculators, you might want to be careful. If that money does come in, probably in the next quarter or so, next 2 to 3 months, it's very likely that the naira might strengthen. Where it is today now, my God, I don't even believe the naira is anywhere close to that in terms of valuation. It's just crazy. And as Olumide said, it probably perhaps the work of speculators going on in here. So you got to be very, very careful if you're going to be going into any dollar related transaction at the moment, especially any business that requires you bring, taking dollars to import things. It might just go against you any moment from now. So it's a good thing that the government is doing this, but it's not a silver bullet. It's not meant to solve everything. We need a lot more than just Eurobonds. I think there's a bank that's also planning to do Eurobonds later I think in the next few weeks or so. So that might also help shore up, FX liquidity. But more importantly, what we do need is for foreign investors to start to return to Nigeria. When that will happen, Adu, I don't know. I don't.
Ugodre, speaking of return to the naira, someone also asked earlier that, why are we seeing that incredible fall of the naira in the black or cheap parallel market now? I don't even know which one we call it, as compared to the official rates. Is there, what do you think is behind that?
Yeah, that's what I think Olumide and Lawretter have spoken to severally. It's speculators, right, guys? It's speculators. So there's a lot of people who I do think, I might be wrong, but I actually personally think there is an attack against the naira here from speculators, and it's an unprecedented attack. It's not very difficult to conceive this, right? So all you need to do is ask yourself, how is that exchange rate determined? So if people are willing to pay over and above, what is probably the expected valuation of the naira against the dollar, then it will always depreciate. So let's assume today it's 557, right? And then yesterday was 557, and then on the black market. And then tomorrow somebody comes and say, oh, I want to sell at 565, and then I buy, right? And then the next day 570, and then I buy, right? So that's how speculators attack. So they keep propping up the price, right? And then at some point, you just dump. So that's what is also called pump and dump. So you pump the price up and then you dump. We might be wrong, but that is, what I think is probably going on, because it is not natural in terms of, in economic terms, to see the exchange rate depreciate like that on a daily basis. It doesn't really happen that way. It doesn't work like that.
All right, thank you very much for your expert analysis, Ugodre. Always good to have you join us. So let's get into some Bitcoin stories. But before that, I just want to reiterate to our listeners that if you want to watch this show again, all you need to do is go to YouTube and look for Nairametrics. The video recording of this particular program is going to be there. And you can watch it again, listen to the answers that have been given by our experts and our friends from Nairametrics. And you will be able to glean from the wisdom one more time and probably have it as one of the things in your archives that you can use to help yourself. But if you need something a little bit more personalized, like a more selective, should I say, guidance into investing in the stock market, there's something called the Stock Select newsletter that you can subscribe to. So Ugodre and the rest of the team would personally write you and give you insights into the market, help you see what to buy, what to hold, what to sell, what are the things you need to do, and help you become a smarter investor. And you will be able to, for lack of better words, master the stock market and become great at investing and knowing exactly how to get the best out of the stock market. So if you want that, all you need to do is subscribe to it by going to ssn.nairametrics.com. That's the website you go to subscribe. It's ssn.nairametrics.com. Go there, subscribe, and you get this Stock Select newsletter, which is a more personalized, hands-on mentorship to help you become a better investor. Olumide, someone asked a question here, says, what is behind the rise of Polkadot in the market?
Very good question. But I think if the listener has been reading Nairametrics article in the past couple of days, the answer will have been straight on the eye. But just for retracting sake, the fundamentals are strong. Polkadot has a lot of ability. That means that it can move in a lot of 2 or 3 blockchains, and investors are seeing that as a good upside. And it's not just Polkadot. I think the star at the moment is Solana. So what we are seeing is that Solana has a solid blockchain, with the fact that the gas fees are lower and the rise of NFT. So we're seeing investors and entrepreneurs, developers building on that chain. So people are looking at similar fundamentals. So we have Tezos, we have Cosmos, and Polkadot. So in the past couple of days, I'm very excited to say that a lot of investors have made at least 600% on such investment. And that just tells you that the fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum is decoupling, it tells you that the market is maturing and assets that has value are picking up. So that's the same narrative. Picking when you invest in valuable assets, the time you might not know the time, but when it comes in, it comes like rainfall, So that's really what's happening right now.
Awesome. Question here that you might want to help us with. This person says, I just turned 40 years old. What financial asset can I invest 10 million naira with a 20-year horizon in? And this is for my children. Person says, my intent is looking for over 100% yield after 20 years.
I think that's very doable, particularly because you have the person has a long-term horizon. 20 years is such a good time for you to set your investments horizon. First, I would say that you're not investing in one asset. You're going to be investing in a combination of assets. And so you're going to build a strong portfolio. As Olumide said earlier, I would advise that your focus is on value assets. So things that you know are going to be useful in the next couple of years. So a combination of first, the stock market, both the Nigerian and the foreign stock market. So within 20 years, if you have invested in stocks that are set to increase in value because of the analysis you have carried out, because of their trend, and just because of the usefulness in our future, then yes, the stock market is a good place to start. I would advise a little bit of risk at this point as well. So if you can do between 7 to 10% of that in crypto assets that again are going to be useful. Crypto assets that in the next 20 years are still going to be valuable, they're still going to be useful to everybody. They should also be put in place. So it's just a combination of different things based on your investment mandate, which is to get over 100% at this point. And then you can pretty much leave most of them to run, obviously with a level of monitoring. But if you have done proper fundamental analysis and you have seen that there's value in the stocks or the crypto assets or even real estate, depending on which platforms. I mean, 10 million is not too much, but it's just the right amount for you to be able to yield as much as you want in that long period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, let me add up to what Lawretter said. Basically, at that age, you need to understand that you're a bit, I would say, a bit greedy because if you look at life expectancy in Nigeria, I think it means that you don't have up to 2 decades. But let's assume that all narrative stay above 2 decades.
Why were you so?
Wow.
No, I'm talking about life expectancy in Nigeria according to the World
Yes,
Bank.
are you saying he's not
Nigeria,
going to be up to 60 because he's 40?
No,
so he's saying 60. Yes, now.
Yeah, but what we are saying here is that you have to be a bit objective when we are doing data analysis, because now I'm following World Bank analysis about Nigeria's life expectancy. So, of course, we have people living 80, 60, 70, but averagely, that's what we are saying. So, first of all, I think you need to tame your expectations. Then, I think you look at the numbers. First of all, you need your risky asset. It means that your risky asset exposure should be advisable less than 5%. If you look at Bloomberg Billionaire Index, most people at that age have exposures of less than 5%. So it tells you that your other opportunities, you look at dividend stocks, you look at index funds, you look at currencies. Now, putting those things in proportion, you get some asset returns that will give you definitely beyond 100%. But I think it's always important for investors not to have an expectations of the yields. You just have to key in on value. You see, nobody expected, like I said, nobody expected Polkadot to give you a 600% in July. Do you understand? So I think people need to understand that you need to key in on value. And when you key in on value, then the job would be rest assured, because that's how you fall into Ponzi schemes and stuff like that. Then you also need to have a financial advisor, because at that age, your earnings at one point will start maturing. So you need a financial advisor that would always guide you on how to keep putting, because you don't build your portfolio overnight. You keep building your portfolio gradually as it comes and things like that. So I think people need to understand the importance of having fixed not too high expectations, and at the same time, data is your friend. You need to understand those things. Yeah.
It's for children and not retirement. It's for
yeah.
and not retirement. But we're not going to have that conversation today.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Lawretta. Thank you, Olumide. And thank you, Ugodre, for joining us today and being a part of this. Like I said, you can watch this broadcast again by just going to YouTube and searching for Naira Metrics. You get to see this particular show again. And do apologize, quite a lot of questions we couldn't take because of time. But hey, next week, we'll be able to take all of them. Thank you, Olumide. Thank you, Lawretta. And thank you, Ugodre, for joining us today once again. Of course, everyday money.
Pleasure, yeah. Happy Wednesday, yeah. Thanks so much.
Next week. All right, you guys have a lovely day. Well, coming up.